So I finally got around to watching the newest Velma show that has been quite the buzz as of late on social media. And I decided to go ahead and not just give the first episode a watch, but I saw the second one was available as well. So I went ahead and watched episodes 1 and 2 of Velma. And I wanted to just kind of make a video and kind of give you guys my thoughts. Now, I understand what's been said and what is being said about this show, and I'm going to try my best to stray away from anything political or anything along those lines. I'm going to try to just base this show off of what it is and what I just genuinely think about it as a show. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first and second episodes of Velma. First and foremost, I really, after watching both of these episodes, to me, it kind of begs the question why this really is a Scooby Doo show to begin with, because the characters are all so different than how they were originally. And now, I know the argument of, well, it's just an alternate universe, right? They can be different. And I get that argument, but at the same time, it's like, even in an alternate universe, Peter Parker still acts like Peter Parker. You know? Batman, or Bruce Wayne still acts like Bruce Wayne. You know? Fred is now the child of a millionaire who has this ascot company, and he's just a big baby all the time now. He's literally like, he's a high school kid who it has been so pampered that his servant has to cut all his food for him, or his mom. And he's unable to do it himself. He really can barely function as a human being. But it's like, if he's this rich, right? He's this rich. He's got all this money. Why is he attending public high school with everybody else? It's a little weird, right? You would think either he'd be homeschooled or something. Like, he's the son of this billionaire company, right? What's really weird to me about Fred, I guess I'll go in and break every character down individually. What was really weird to me about Fred was, there's this scene in the first episode where he literally cuts this, it's in the trailer, so if you've watched the trailer, you'll know what I'm talking about. He throws this chessboard that ends up getting delodged off of itself, and just the knives of it come out, and literally ends up cutting this other school kid's legs off. Like, he literally like chops him around the knee area, and it's just completely disembodies him, kind of. And it's not even remotely talked about or mentioned or anything. It just is completely ignored. And I don't know if that was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't. At least I didn't think so. When I watched it, I was waiting for them to address it, and then they just didn't address it. So I kept asking myself, was that a joke? I didn't get it. I didn't get it. And that was what I asked myself about a lot of the jokes in this show. Was I just had to keep asking myself, what are they talking about? I just genuinely didn't understand a majority of the jokes in this show. Hell, even in the trailer, I didn't understand a majority of the jokes in the trailer. There was one joke in the trailer that I didn't understand in the trailer, and I thought, well, maybe I need to watch the show, maybe I'll understand. And then she says the joke again, and I still don't get it. It's the one where she says something along the lines of, mothers on the verge of losing custody of their children while watching investigative, while being investigators or something like that. What? I don't get what that was in reference to. I don't get the joke. But to move on from Fred, you've got Norville. Norville is this version's Shaggy. He is a bit of a nerd. What's weird about Shaggy is he's almost more of a nerd than Velma is. Velma is just she's not really like a super nerd anymore. She's not the smart one. Velma now is kind of like the quirky girl, right? She's now the quirky, unattractive, nerdy girl. Meanwhile, Shaggy or Norville here seems to be the one who's like, he's got a YouTube channel or some kind of vlog channel because he keeps going live, and a lot of people like him. A lot of people like his stuff. But he also seems to be a bit more of the brains, right? Meanwhile, Velma is just not... I don't want to call her not smart, because you do see her do some solving and things of the like, but it's not... She's not like the super genius, right? That she was in almost every other iteration, right? But Norville has a big crush on Velma, and we keep seeing him like kind of try to find ways to, you know, get her to go out with him or whatever, and it just keeps not going in his favor. And we've seen this type of character before in a lot of things. I don't want to call him boring or not interesting, but it's just we've seen this before. Then to move on, you have Daphne. Daphne is kind of like... She's the popular girl in school, right? But what's interesting about her is Daphne's unlike any other iteration that we'd ever seen before. Because how Fred is in this show, like being the son of a multi-billion-dollar company family or whatever, is how Daphne was in a majority of other iterations of Scooby Doo. It was usually Daphne's parents and Daphne's family that was the rich ones, right? But in this show, her parents, which aren't even really her parents, it's suggested that she's adopted, that Daphne was adopted by two women who are together, but those aren't her real parents. So there's actually a scene in the episode where she says that she's going to try to find her biological family and find out who she's really related to, and yada yada yada. So that's Daphne. Oh, Daphne also she deals drugs too, and I don't know. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack with a lot of the characters. I'm trying not to spoil too much if you want to watch it. But now to go back to Velma. Here's the thing about Velma herself. Like, when I first started the show, a lot of the jokes didn't hit, right? But I genuinely, despite what everybody said about the show, and I want to lay this down flat. Despite what everybody said about the show, I genuinely tried to give it a fair shot. Despite what everybody said, I said, you know what? Let me try to give it a fair shot. And so the jokes at the beginning didn't hit. They really didn't. I found them to be just off, right? They just weren't off. And that's how a lot of this show was until we got to Velma's backstory. And I literally remember telling myself, like, oh, hold on. Like, is this show finally about to start getting good? Like, is it finally going to start getting interesting? Her backstory is so interesting, guys. Like, her mother used to be interested in mysteries and mystery solving. So Velma started getting interested in it too. So much so to the point where she ended up ruining her Christmas because Velma was so interested in solving the mystery of what gifts she got that she found the gifts that her mother had got for her for Christmas, and she ended up spoiling her own surprise. So as a result of that, Velma felt bad. She said, oh no, like, I ruined the surprise that was made for me for Christmas. I feel bad. So her mother knew that she felt bad and said, you know what, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to get you another gift that you don't know what it is, so that you can still have that element of surprise, right? So her mother leaves, but never comes back. So like she got kidnapped, or someone killed her, or she got into a wreck, or whatever the case is. Well, the police end up finding her car, and she's missing, and the only thing inside her car are her glasses, which Velma ends up taking and having. That's where she gets her glasses from, and the gift that she had gotten her, right? So that was so interesting to me. I thought that backstory was like, whoa, this is getting good. Like now there's like a reason for me to be like, whoa, I'm kind of engaged. I'm kind of like, whoa, that's kind of cool. I wonder what happened, or I wonder what's going on, right? Well, they kind of ruin it a little bit, because they do the thing where she had a flashback and she remembers everything as being great, right? And then she has another flashback later where she remembers things as how they actually happened, and it was kind of in a negative light. So her father was like, no, she didn't leave us because she, got kidnapped or whatever. She left us because she hated us. And I thought that ruined a lot of what engaged me into the story. But they do kind of fix it again later when Velma says, no, that's not true, because I know she loved me, and I know she... But to me, it's like they should have just removed the parts where she says... they should have just removed that whole misremembering part. Like, the way that they told that story in the beginning, the way that they told her flashback was great. I really thought it was awesome. It really had me engaged into the story. And then they fumbled with it. And then they tried to save it. But it's like, I don't understand why they had a great backstory, and then they ruin it, and then they try to fix it again. Well, why did you go through all that? Why did you go through ruining it, only to then try at the very end to try to salvage and save it again? You could have just not ruined it. That way you wouldn't have had to have done through all that. But anyway, enough with the backstory. Now let's just kind of get on to the episodes themselves. I remember the first episode starting kind of like, it was doing that self-aware style comedy where it's like, oh, we're the first episode of a TV show, and you know what they say about first episodes, that they have a bit more nudity, and they're a bit more gratuitous than the rest of the show, and then they proceed to start showing slight, I don't want to say nudity, because they were in the shower, and obviously they did like the Naruto sexy no jutsu thing where he's got clouds over like the body parts, right? So, but for them it was like bubbles, or soap, right? So you really couldn't see anything, but they kept calling it nudity. But again, this was that humor that, like, I don't know why they came right out the gate with that style of humor. Like, you're supposed to let me get a gauge for the show and kind of a gauge for what I'm getting ready to get into with this. Not this humor, like as if I've already seen like 3 episodes of the show already. Like that style of humor, they should have not been done right away. Because you're just kind of thrown off, because I don't know what style show it's supposed to be yet. You're supposed to slow go into that, I think, in my opinion. But there's other parts of the first episode, like where she's in school and she's just not really getting along with everybody because they all think that she's a dweeb and a nerd and yada yada. And I don't know. There was just a lot of this show that I just didn't... To be honest, will I continue to watch it? I probably will. If only because I'm curious to see where it's going to go and what's going to happen. But from what I saw of the first 2 episodes, I just was like, I don't know what this show is trying to be, man. Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm watching it and I'm just like, I don't get what you're supposed to be. To be honest, I'm being completely honest with you guys. I don't get half the jokes in this show. I don't know if I'm just that oblivious to this style of humor, or I don't get them, and the ones that I do get, I don't think that they're funny. There was one joke I actually laughed at in the second episode. I actually, like, it caught me off guard. It actually was like, ha! It was, she meets her father, Velma meets her father in the park trying to buy drugs. And I guess her father was wearing a sock hat. And her biggest concern with this situation was not even that he was trying to buy drugs, was that why were you wearing a sock hat like you're a TV star actor, but you're trying to subtly let everybody know that your background is in theater. That actually made me laugh, because I could actually relate to that joke, because, you know, I have a background in theater. So for me, I thought it was funny, because I have a lot of friends who have backgrounds in theater, and they love to wear the sock hat, right? Or beanie, I'm sorry, beanie. So I thought that was funny. But a lot of the other jokes in this show were either I didn't get them, or I got them and I didn't think that they were funny. Like, a lot of the humor with Fred, to me, was like, I didn't think it was funny. Like, I get what they were going for. Like, Fred's just this pampered kid who's just a big baby, and, you know, he could barely function as, like, a human being because he has to have his parents and his butler do everything for him. Like, I get it, right? But it's just when I watched it and I saw it happen on the screen, I just didn't think it was funny. You know, like, I got the joke, I just didn't think it was funny. And that was my opinion for a lot of this show, to be completely honest. Like, I just didn't think it was very funny. Like, it was a show that was... And the thing about it is, there's a lot of shows where, like, even if it's Scooby Doo, right? Like, regular Scooby Doo, and they have a scene where they make a joke, and I don't laugh, right? But guess what they do? They jump right back into what Scooby Doo and what the movie or what the show is about. And it's the frights, and it's the this and that. But this one, like, it just goes from joke to joke to joke to joke. Like, I feel like this show, I don't know too much about this show. I don't know too much about the girl who's voicing Velma that, you know, helped make this show or whatever. I really don't know too much about any of that. But what this show feels like to me is it feels like a comedian wrote this show and had so many jokes that they would have loved to have performed and said on stage, but they just haven't been able to go on stage in a while, and was like, now I'm involved in this show. Now I can use all these jokes that I've had written down for years, and I'm just gonna, you know, back to back to back to back, all these jokes. And it just, to me, it wasn't funny. But that's just my opinion. I've been rambling on now for about 19 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this up. Overall, Velma had potential. I'm going to say that. Velma, and it still does. Even after 2 episodes out, I'm kind of... so far, I'll give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. So far, it has potential. It can turn itself around. But again, I continue to ask myself the question of, why is this a Scooby Doo show? Like, Scooby Doo's not even in this. Like, you could have literally just changed the names of the characters and changed what they look like. This would have been a completely, like, it wouldn't have affected the show. This show being in a Scooby Doo universe almost means nothing, because again, Scooby Doo's not even in this show so far. So it's like, I don't know. And to be honest, I almost kind of don't want him to be, because there's a lot of adult jokes in this, and there's a lot of adult humor in this, and I kind of don't want to see, like, I don't want to see them do something stupid. I don't want to see them do something like, oh, Scooby-Doo, you know, got high or something. I don't want to see that. Like, maybe I'd want to see that if this was like a YouTube you know, parody or something, like, okay, that's, haha, that's funny, you know, for a 2-minute YouTube parody. But we're talking about an official Scooby Doo creation. I don't want to see something stupid like Scooby Doo getting high or something. You know, and I considering these past 2 episodes, I might not put it past them that they would do that. But anyways, guys, what did you guys think of this show? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.